Agenda, May 14th, 2024, City Council Chambers, City Hall, 135 North Commercial, 5:35 p.m. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome all the people in the audience tonight. Roll call.
Moderano,
Here.
Amio,
Here.
Spade,
Yes, ma'am.
Coker,
Yes.
Rolo, Norris,
Here.
Leone.
Yes. Public comments. Melissa Toring, is she available here tonight? If so, you want to come up here? No? Is she on Virgil?
No, see her.
No? Okay, moving on. Approval of the minutes of March 12th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. I'm assuming everybody had a chance to read them. If there's any additions or corrections, you can bring them forward. No, not. I'll listen for a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second. Motion made second. Roll call.
Moderano,
Abstain.
Armijo,
Abstain.
Spain,
Abstain.
Coker,
Yes.
Rolo, Norris,
I got to abstain too.
Leone.
Yes. We have to bring him up at the next meeting? Or is that a quorum?
No.
Well, there was only two.
No, as long as you have a quorum right now,
Right.
you have a quorum, you don't need a quorum to vote.
Okay.
You were at the meeting though, Mr. Norris.
Okay, wasn't okay.
Yeah,
okay.
you were at the meeting
Okay, that
before.
one. Okay.
Do you want to change your vote?
Yeah, I'll change it. Sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Public hearing? Dexter Brown and Company 2024 Subdivision 01, Timothy McCall requests a limited impact review for a minor subdivision at the northwest corner of Peak Street and Monroe. And in here it says Canton Road, it should be changed there. The final plat is known as Country Club Ranch, filing number 2 subdivision, and subject property is lot number 1. Staff.
We got a application from Mr. McConnell from Drexel Barrel and Company for a minor subdivision of the plat just, or the location just described. This is for a single family residence. So this has never previously been platted. So this one single lot. Currently it's zoned as residential estate. There'll be some public land indication, which I will have to get you guys a new plat because that has been changed. There'll be sidewalk, curb, and gutter installed on both sides of the right of way. This is a growth area for the city, so any building is encouraged. It's consistent with development standards. In the zone district in which property is located, and like I said, tract A will be for some open space and public utility, public drainage and public trail easements. Tract A will be owned and maintained by Eagle Rock Community Association. There's several things here. It's 1434 for the subdivision review, 1435 for the final plat, 1437 for public land dedication. Final plat, there was a issue. The one we just passed around is revised because there was an issue with an easement. So we had to ask for an easement on the north side of the property for electrical. So that did change the public land dedication. The plat you have now does cover 15%. And that was a little back and forth with the applicant. Was it? Yes.
Is everyone seeing that easement? It's on the north side, so there's two easements that
Is
make.
that where you have the N84, 36, 20 east? Yeah, is
Yes,
that
yeah.
what you're talking about?
Yeah, that easement had to be, that was adjusted or requested by the city, late last week, so, the applicant got this new plat to us yesterday, trying to work with us. They also revised the public land dedication because easements are not, counted for public land dedication, because they'd be kind of double counted that way. So, yeah. That's all I really got. That's all I have.
And so,
Open the hearing. Anybody in the audience want to come up here and educate us on anything else that's regarding this particular application?
Hi, my name is Jason Sepulveda. I work for Duran Ventures, the owner of the property. We just want to bring this final plat to you guys. We're looking to build a house on this property. And, you know, we have a development that's going on up there called Eagle Rock. We're trying to get that resurrected from the dead from years ago. So this is the first property that we're looking to kind of develop right away. It's got utilities in the street already. You know, upon approval, if you guys so decide, we want to, you know, get those utilities permits applied for, and we'll get some all the utilities extended to the lot and start building. We think it'll be a nice addition to the community, and we look forward to building a few houses up there. I'd be glad to answer any questions you guys may have.
Mr. Norris. So it's a spec home right now? Is that-
We're not sure. We haven't decided on that yet, but
Okay.
we're still kicking that around.
I gotta ask questions. Some of this is gonna go to staff, because I'm a little confused. And if I'm speaking out of context, I would like this to be brought forward. One thing I wanna start off with is I am all about housing in our community. New housing, I am all about that. So don't take me in a negative way when I'm bringing to what I bring. So the new development it would be true, you said Eagles Rock?
Eagle Rock?
Okay, so that would actually be an extension or a part of an original plot, which would be considered a PUD. Right, that was PUD many years ago. Is that a true statement, staff?
so
Well, I have to ask this because there's things that, when I read through this, I did just a little bit, but I got really confused, so I need clarification.
you're getting in, I think I know where you're going, and just so you know, the applicant is filing additional applications into the future, and actually at your next public hearing, we are going to be dissolving the old PUD. So the previous developer is in that development agreement, and PUD agreement is obsolete and in default. And this is a outlot that was part of a larger development, but was never platted. So there's a meets and bounds description, and what they're doing tonight is officially platting the lot, because it was never filed as part of any of the old Eagle Rock subdivisions.
It shows in a map, right?
Right. What map are you looking at?
A city map.
The assessor map? Are you looking at a parcel map, or are you looking at a plat?
Daniel, what would you call that map? Because that deals with all the
That's a
city. It's
zoning
not.
map.
It's a zoning map.
Zoning map.
The city zoning
A
map.
city zoning map.
Okay.
And it shows that one lot as a part of the original PUD. And so, you know, again, I'm all for housing. I really am big on it. But if it's a part of the original zoning map, I guess my question to staff is, and I'm sorry if I'm speaking out of context. If I am, then please stop me. But shouldn't we be, if this is the case, should we not be going to it? Because a PUD that is set, it was kind of set in stone a long time ago.
Right.
So if that's the case, are we not supposed to go through what's supposed to happen on the next meeting first before we're doing this aspect? I guess is my question.
So you're saying that the city's zoning map has it zoned as PUD?
It's own residential.
It's zoned residential estate on the zone.
I understand, but it was it's part of the original
Yeah,
PUD.
okay.
You know, because that, if I'm correct, and don't take me, you know.
No, so I'll add clarification. So we have worked with the applicant to untangle the old PUD. The issue that you're looking at is that the plats that were filed under that old PUD, only phase 1 was actually ever approved and filed in
Can I see what that original phase 1 was?
You may, if we can find it.
If I'm not trying to be a pain. I just,
No,
me personally, I want to understand
Yeah,
what we're
well,
doing here.
so I'm gonna kind of have to do a little check on this because you guys serve, so this is a very complex, and I know, you're not interrupted. I just want to get, because I have to protect your quasi judicial process for the future because these guys are coming back.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm gonna be very careful how I state this. I gotta think through what I say, so just give me a second to think about this. What you have here is, and it's not the fault of the current owner.
Correct.
The previous developer defaulted. What happened under that previous owner is twofold. One, they did get through a phase 1 plat. This lot was not part of that plat. We can show you that phase 1 we actually were looking at this afternoon. It's not part of that, but I want to be careful not to project that because you guys actually got to take action on that here soon. So, but I can assure you that we have as staff untangled the fact that the original PUD for Country Club in Eagle Rock, only one plat was filed, which was phase 1 of the Eagle Rock subdivision. When that was filed, it was platted and the developer got halfway through the development and then defaulted. That, because they have already recorded the plat and they did performance bonds, the council is going to be taking action to redo their previous agreements for that platted and approved subdivision. What happened, which is very unique, is that previous developer took the phase 2 plat that never came in front of the planning commission, which is part of, and filed it at the county. And if you look at the assessor's map, the reason you're looking at this stuff, the assessor took that map and formally filed that, and it's not legal. At a future meeting with the council, we actually have to go back and file an ordinance that has nothing to do with the planning commission, because that was just illegal. It's not a zoning action. It was an illegal action by the previous developer that did that. So yes, it's like a giant cobweb of stuff. What we're trying to do for the current owner is get them to a process where they can start putting some of this property back into usable use, and that's what you clearly stated that you're supporting. The other pieces are a massive process piece. This was, after we looked at the plats, because the PUD, yes, it was approved, but because the PUD was never acted on and there was never any PUD controls filed formally and recorded, that PUD, which you'll eventually see coming up, is going to be deemed obsolete. And it is. It's your code says after 3 years, it is an obsolete. But you will have to take action for the remainder of those properties. But this outlot, because, again, going back to the original question, what I think your concern is, because this lot was never filed, the whole reason we're even doing the minor subdivision tonight is that this lot has always just been a meet and bound outlot and was never part of any formal plat or any plat. So what the applicant is doing tonight, and the reason you're seeing this application, is they're formalizing and platting the lot as a standalone lot because it was never filed as any other subdivision. the previous, and this took me a while to figure out, the issue you have is that the previous developer filed the phase 2 plat, and if you look right now, you'll see on the plat, there's a whole entire subdivision of Eagle Rock that the assessor shows as tax parcels. None of those lots, besides the phase 1, which is on the far north side of that, were ever platted. And so to clean title, we're going through an extensive process, and we also, not only do we have to find that the previous PUD obsolete for the bigger portion of this development, the other piece that has to occur is that all the previous defaulted agreements need to be repealed and replaced. But the point go back to what you're asked. The issue tonight is that this lot in question, which you're approving tonight, was not part of any formal recorded plat previously. And so they're trying to take it, and it is currently zoned, but it was never platted. And so by taking action on tonight's request, they are able to proceed with a platted lot and begin on just that lot.
And I agree, thank you. Thank you for clarifying, but I think, when I look at things, nothing tells me that this was this and this was that. So again, when I look at it as a whole, right?
Correct.
And so when I look at a map and I see this is all a part of this, then and I understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to explain myself and why I brought that up. So.
And let me just try to find the phase 1. I don't know something. Just give me a moment here, guys. I wasn't prepared for you to ask that question. I'm sorry. No, you're good.
You need to make a firm decision. It's okay.
It is very much. So this is. Oh no, this isn't it. Sorry, there's quite a bit. We've had to
older map.
Yep, nope, we've had to come through title. Let's see here. That's phase 1. This is it. So this is the only approved plat for Eagle Rock. Sorry, I'm trying to zoom in a little bit because the area in question is over here, down in this corner. So as of today, the only thing in Country Club 1 and Eagle Rock that has ever been approved are these lots. These actually already have houses on them.
Can you tell me what road we're looking at, please?
This is Peak Street. And so the lot in question is here.
Correct. So Morris Canyon would be running down.
Morris Canyon.
Correct.
There's Morris Canyon. So Morris Canyon is not even on this plat. And so the issue you have and what you're looking at is the result of a PUD that was illegally filed by the previous, not the current applicant.
Right.
And why the county platted those lots and created them on the parcel ID that you're sure you're looking at is beyond me. But what we will be doing is taking the council, not the Planning and Zoning Commission, has to pass an ordinance basically saying that we do not recognize that previous approval because it was never approved.
Mr. Knoll?
Go ahead, please.
Mr. Knoll?
So, I get what you're saying and 100% I'm following you, but it's not just showing on the assessor map that way, it's showing on the previous city map to the one that's online. It's that way. So.
The current zoning map that is today.
But how did
But the
it
current-
how did it get there? Like if the city didn't approve it, how did it get on the city zoning map?
The issue is that it was, so there's a difference between zoning and annexation.
Right.
So it
It
was
shows on that map as PUD.
on the current zoning map?
No.
Yeah.
The current.
Not the current one, the one before that. And
The old, just to be clear, the old one that was online,
no, it wasn't online.
No.
You had to come into City Hall and buy it. And so
I
I have a big giant one on my wall that I've just kept because I'm used to looking at it real quick. And it's definitely on a city map. So and I'm all about this. Like I want this to go through and I just want it done right so that it doesn't. So if you're gonna dissolve the PUD, I'm just curious if it should have been dissolved first, then this come before it, you know what I'm saying? Because if it's illegal,
Is that in your office still? Shows it as residential too?
Yes.
So the previous one that, there's no map that I've seen that ever showed it, but I'm gonna pull
I
this.
could run to my office real quick
Well,
and bring it here
but
for you.
your office isn't the official zoning
Yeah,
map.
I know, I stand by
Even the one that
city,
was previous to this has it zoned as residential. And I think the issue you're bringing up is, and I just apologize because this is, for lack, it's a defunct subdivision, and the previous
100% understand that.
developer filed illegal documents, zoning documents, that may or may not have been picked up by a previous, but when we updated the current zoning map,
But how can something just disappear? You know, shouldn't it be dissolved before you guys just say, oh,
but the issue is that it was never approved. So that's where you guys are latching on to is the fact that there was an illegal filing.
But that map was out to the general public. If that map was out to the general public, then how is it illegal? If the general public can walk into City Hall and see that map, how is that map illegal?
Well,
Question.
I don't wanna argue here, but here's the current zoning map.
I looked at the current zoning map, and that parcel is not in there, but that current map was just redone recently, correct? It is possible because I live in this world and people make mistakes. That one little section could have accidentally not made it into what was something in the past, I guess is.
Well, actually, what I think probably happened is that the current map was actually, this map was done via actually reviewing the actual recorded ordinances. And the issue was that the previous map was so out of date that didn't have the recorded ordinances. So here's my advice to the commission tonight, and I understand what you're asking and your concern. The council, this map is the official zoning map of the town, the city of Trinidad. It was adopted by town council, and we paid a consultant. I didn't do this, just for the record. We paid a consultant to comb the actual recorded ordinance. And I think, and this is why when I started, why we got a grant to do this, was that the previous zoning map wasn't updated with the zoning ordinances. And I think that's part of the issue was that when the previous developer came in, they erroneously filed things and then they were picked up. And that previous zoning map, for what it's worth, was actually done by the county, not by the city. And that's why the city paid, the one that the county had on the assessor was not accurate. When I was working with Chris, I said, why are you using an accurate? So we actually wrote a grant and had it updated. And you can see here on the far right of the official zoning map that the consultant went through the ordinance history and actually went through and went through this. So you can see that there's a PUD on here. Went in 2000, this actually occurred in 2008. So we could probably find but the issue is that and we discussed this in length this afternoon, the previous PUD, to file a PUD, you have to file the zoning controls, and there is no recorded ordinance of the zoning controls. What happened is, and for the record, with that other piece of property, it is zoned PUD, the other chunk of property, but because the zoning controls were never filed, it's just the color on the map. There are no zoning requirements. So again, to go back to the issue at hand tonight, the developer is trying to unravel all of this mess that the previous developer created. This outlot is a standalone piece that was never part of, and actually, in fact, we actually are doing part of this is dedicating some of the road so that we got the Peak Street.
Yeah, Peak Street had to be dedicated.
So
it previously was, but it's never been platted, so it was platted on here.
So, I mean, even the basic things like Peak Street being platted wasn't part of that any of those original filings. Again, going back to, for the record, the only thing that's ever been recorded officially at all with Eagle Rock is this plat. The other plat, I can show you the invalid plat, and this is just what I'm getting probably way too far in the weeds tonight, but just so that the planning commission can see it. Sorry, I have two files open here. The issue at hand, and this is why this has created such a mess, is that this plat was filed illegally and has created a mess at the assessor and the tax records. And at some point, the county picked this up, and for a good probably 10 years, the county was updating the city's zoning map on GIS. And again, when we did the zoning map update, and I don't want to speak for the consultant, but they went through, they got all of their previous ordinances and all the previous plats and updated to fix the zoning map because we knew there was inaccuracies on it. So I will have to lean on the adopted zoning map and tell you that's the map of record for you guys. Not, I know you have one in your office.
No, I know.
But I just,
It's been a problem with the city of Trinidad. This is not your fault, not anybody's fault, but things like this should not happen. And how are we as, members of the commission supposed to know what's correct, what's not correct? Because a PUD is set in stone.
Right.
So if you're 100% positive that it is not in the PUD, then I'm all for it. And I'd even still be for it. I just thought we were doing it backwards.
Gotcha.
Because if you're gonna dissolve the PUD, you need to do that first, and then ask for this, right?
Yeah, the issue is that there's two things that happen. There's an annexation plat that's filed. The annexation plat is a boundary plat, right? You're absorbing land into that.
Right.
And when they did their annexation maps on the previous developer, they created giant parcels. Those parcels have been picked up as the tax parcels, but those aren't subdivision plats. Only the planning commission and then the council taking action an applicant going through subdivision can do that. And again, this plat, for instance, was filed without, you can actually see it was filed without a city signature on it. And then and again, I want to apologize because I know when I was working with Chris, she was very frustrated that there was a lot of inaccuracies between the county GIS and the city's record. But I will lean on, because I know what the consultant did to do the zoning map, of going back through the record. And then the other thing I will say is that keep in mind that the council certified that zoning map, the new zoning map. And so that is the official, moving forward for you guys, that is the official zoning map of the town.
So you're 100% positive this
I'm not gonna say I'm 100% positive, but what I will say is that I know that by the city council taking action on that zoning map and certifying it as a public record, that is what you guys need to use. I am 100% positive on that. And I will tell you that,
Commissioner Marrero.
Was there ever a feasibility study on this property?
Well, clearly not because they went to fund. But I don't want to get into the Eagle Rock issues. I just want you to know, because you guys serve in a quasi-judicial capacity. I don't want to talk about future applications with you tonight. But the question at hand was, is it part of the Baker piece? And the answer is no. We have, again, the only official record before the developer went defunct is that map.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to get to is that if there wasn't, is there going to be one?
There has to be, yes. So when you annex property like we are tonight, you zone it, right? And there's another application. Anytime you take an annexation application, because it's a county zone and now it becomes a city. So what happened back when Eagle Rock and Country Club Ranch came in, the land was annexed in. This I believe this parcel in question tonight was actually an out parcel that was just signed, where the developer had planned to put a giant monument sign on and never came to fruition. It was never part of the plats that were filed or platted. And the issue that we have, and the reason that the applicant's coming in, is the fact that the plat there was never a plat filed. And so that's what we're trying to clean up tonight, is to create the legal entity and parcel for this, because it was just an outlot that doesn't meet some Matt's description.
Are we trying to put, the cart before the horse?
No, because the developer is only asking an approval for one lot.
So we're not worried about if the sewer's large enough for it or anything like that?
Again, the bigger piece of all of that stuff is coming, but the current lot as it sits today has existing water, sewer, gas, and electric to serve the lot. So I understand your question, but the staff has looked at this, the utility departments have, and we're not concerned about the ability to serve. So we do have the capacity to serve the lot. The larger stuff, different conversation for a different time.
My apologies, didn't
Sure,
mean to
yeah.
turn this into
No,
something
no,
crazy.
no, no, no.
but
No, I think
it was important that we all understand.
Yeah, no, I think the last point, just so you know, just for the public records, since I'm going on the record on all this stuff, you're putting me on the spot, which is fine. But the where all of this has come from is the applicant supplied a title commitment, and we have combed through the title commitment and all of the actual recorded ordinances and agreements and gone through everything. And the reason that the applicant has been directed to this is that this lot was never part of any of the country club subdivision
And so
stuff.
you're still not willing to say you're 100% sure?
I'll be real
If you're not
blunt.
willing to say
I'll
it,
be
I'm
real
not
blunt, that this is the problem. In my career, I've never seen something you have two of these subdivisions that exist in town. I mean, it's taken me hours of reading every one of these documents. What I can tell you is that you are correct in your questions of like, what's the bigger picture here? The issue at hand though is that the applicant wants to get
One lot.
one of the lots that isn't encumbered by all of this stuff done, and then we have to go through, you're correct, we have to go through a process to dissolve the bigger pieces of this so that they can now actually try to make that land useful to the city than it currently is. But
Mr. Spade?
You know, I have a question for you, actually. And I want to say, just like everybody else, I think it's going to be a great deal. Looking forward to seeing how this all works out. But you hear all this, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I'm communicating with you. Hear this. All right.
I've been involved with this from the very, very beginning.
I hope that you do amazing things.
More so than
Wow.
along with these gentlemen here.
Yeah.
I've worked countless hours. I can't count the hundreds of hours I have in this.
I just want to make sure that you're able to be successful.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
No worries at all.
What I have to say is, basically, we're all up here to help the city, okay? So that no suits or anything could be brought up later on.
Right.
Now, this is my opinion. My opinion, the staff should have brought this before us, before we brought it to you. I don't know why that wasn't done, but it should have been done.
But what I want to defend us as staff, we have just confirmed that we understand where this is coming from, and we have come through the title commitment, and we wouldn't be we have investigated your concern. I will say that to the nth degree, because we have had to go through all of that title commitment. I have gone through it. The issue is that parcel, I believe, was the monument that they were going to do for the.
There was a construction trailer on that site. That's where the construction trailer was. The temp head is still out there. We just didn't have a meter in it. But that was the construction trailer site. And as you know, with platting of lots, when you do a subdivision like that, they didn't plat that lot because they didn't want to pay the improved lot taxes on something that was going to have a construction trailer sitting on it for a long time. So that lot was never ever platted. So it was a piece of vacant ground. In our opinion, after unraveling all this stuff, it looked like this thing was a pretty short putt. Let's get this thing platted, let's get it approved, let's see if we can build a house on it, make a couple bucks, seed the next round. And because the next round is a little while ago, because we're untangling a mess.
Do you know if there was ever a feasibility study on that whole project?
I don't know if that was ever the case. Back then, I don't know that I haven't run into one in all my mining of documents. I haven't seen one, but I don't know if that would have ever been a recorded document that would have been filed at the courthouse. I don't think so. But I can tell you that feasibility studies for the new project are forthcoming. We will do that.
Okay.
You can't take on the notion of spending that kind of money without having a little,
Well, we need
a
to know
study.
that everything's capable of handling the project.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
That is a pretty big load for that area that already have
Sewer line
switch
was replaced
gears.
once already because it was overloaded.
Well, not only that, but the switch gears and the lines, that's a heavy load over in that area already. So, I mean, this is something that's definitely gonna be important. I mean, is the city sure?
So,
Are we misleading?
no,
the builder?
well, let's stay on track
We
then.
can't really go
We
to
can't,
that now.
well, no,
This is
I
what we're
won't,
here to do.
I'm gonna add, I'm trying to, you guys you have a future application coming from these guys, and I wanna be real, you're asking, but to answer your question directly, the Saddle Road sewer bypass that was previously required of the previous developer is still required of this developer
Okay.
prior to them commencing any additional work. Again,
All right, I got you.
Again, the issue being that tonight's application note is not phase one of the old, if it was,
This is one parcel.
again, it was actually, this is, again, the issue at the end tonight is the fact that this lot was never platted and never recorded. So it's a meets and bounds description.
Just get it out there.
Well, and I have to somewhat, I guess in a sense, apologize, but I needed clarification, because when I look at a map and I see that this is a part of a PUD, that kind of just strike the flag to me, and I just wanted clarification. The information that you guys have brought to the table, I understand, I guess I'll probably just leave it right there. You gave me a lot of good insight, something that helps me better understand where we're at today with moving forward with the project. Thank you.
Anything else?
I've got a question.
Hang on,
Hold on 1 second.
hang on. Anything else? Any more questions from staff?
No, you can take-
You can sit down, Mr. Hoover.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Now, anyone in the audience for or against this application can come forward, state their name, and
Mangino.
bring it forward.
I live 2 lots down from where you're talking about.
Mhm.
I don't know why it's such a big deal for one lot, but that's none of my business. But the only thing I am concerned about, my neighbor who's going to be affected by this showed me the survey for that lot. And it extends about 20 feet across that easement. And I'm just wondering if they block that easement off, we have no access, then we don't have access to our transformers behind the house.
So the updated
Is that
plat,
true or not?
the updated plat has the new easement on there, so that there's a new easement. This was updated because of that
That
concern.
easement goes behind all the houses on that lot.
Yeah, so there's an easement to access
Right.
to there, and then there's also the neighborhood. Yeah, so this is the access to all this, for the city to get to all your electric,
Right.
and then this is the easement for the neighbor.
But this lot, it looks on his, he put it on like a smartphone, and the lot extended past this.
So there's gonna be, they're gonna give us an easement here for that access, and then there's also some parkland dedication.
Into my neighbor's, oh, you, that's privately owned right there, right? You're gonna get,
No,
This is theirs.
This is their lot. This is the neighbor's lot. This is the what he doesn't own. And so we required an adequate.
no, I'm not talking about this guy. The guy next to me owns all that 11 acres back here.
So there's an easement that runs all the way down this.
Right, I know, yeah.
Yes.
I had to pay to fix that road because nobody else would.
So I don't
But I'm
understand.
just concerned about this lot being extending across that easement. If that's not gonna happen, then we're good. It's not gonna block the easement.
No, so we required them to plat the easement, so there's access to that road.
Okay. I didn't think that would happen, but I wanted to make sure.
Sure, no, that's a great question, yeah.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Magino?
See you guys, that's it.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else?
My neighbor's gonna have to fight with you guys because he's the one that's gonna be affected by it.
Come forward and say your name.
My name's Ray Duran, and I'm with Duran Ventures. And I just wanted to make sure that you guys understand that we're just talking about the one lot on the corner. It's never been platted. It was like this little orphan lot that had no, I don't know, no standing within the city limits. It wasn't on a map. We haven't found anything that says it was ever platted. So, in fact, I find it somewhat curious, as you guys are somewhat curious, that there's an electric utility line that goes along our lot on the north side that at this current time doesn't even have an easement for the electric. I mean, and it's, feeding, I think, everybody that goes the houses behind us. And I'm just kind of like, well, how did that happen? I don't know, but the electric line is there. And tonight we're trying to say, hey, okay, we know we gotta do this, and dedicate this, and dedicate that, and we're also at the same time dedicating that easement for that utility line that's already there. So, we just want to be able to start to move forward on showing a little bit of action, showing that something's going on in the city of Trinidad, and so this one lot was all by itself. Yeah, we're not gonna discuss any of the other stuff that's going on because it's a much bigger puzzle than we really want to get into. But tonight, it's just that one lot so that we can turn around and build something there so that we can maybe show, some of the residents of the city that, hey, there's something going on here. And I know Mr. Mangino was speaking on behalf of, I don't think he mentioned the name, I think it's Mr. Anthony Trujillo. When I bought that land, he came to me and said, well, I'm kind of parking my truck here. And, I did a little bit of landscaping and put in some gravel and stuff. And he says, how's this gonna affect me? And I said, well, would you like to buy that lot? And, he told me that, he couldn't afford to. And then I told him, would you want to buy that little piece? And my recollection was that he said that he couldn't afford to, so I figured, well then, you know what, we just gotta go ahead with what we have, and I know that there's a utility line running down that exact area, so, like I told him, this is probably something that he would have to, if we sell that lot eventually, it's probably something that he's gonna have to talk to the new landowner to see if, if it's something they can work out together. That I think it would be the same for anybody else that was, using another person's piece of property. They gotta just come up to some kind of an understanding or no understanding that, so I did have a conversation with him prior, and in fact, this past Friday. And I'm actually kind of surprised that he wasn't here tonight, but maybe that's why he sent Mr. Mangino, I don't know. Anyway, it's kind of where we are. We just want to get this lot approved, get it platted, get it accepted, and so we can go forward and start constructing something there that's going to look nice. Anybody have questions?
Mr. Spink?
I have a question now. Did I hear right? You just said you bought land where there's power poles and the line already existed, where there should be an easement, but somehow we didn't get an easement put there, and you now own the land that has the power poles on it?
That's what I understand.
You heard that, right? And this was the same thing that the guy just before us was talking about, was about that easement. This is exactly what he was talking about, the road where
The
the
gentleman
easement.
before was talking, if you look at the plat, the gentleman before is looking, so there's actually two electric lines. There's an electric line on the west and there's an electric line on the north.
So is the city planning on moving the entire line of power poles?
No, there's an easement. No,
There is an easement now, so
Well,
we now
if you
have.
approve, tonight's action will approve the easement that's needed for the electric line.
But he just said that the future owners was gonna have to work something out.
No, he's
with-
not.
Just with the individual that's parking his truck there.
But this is the land where the power poles are on.
No, there's not a power pole, it's an underground electric line. Just
All right, well,
just be clear.
easement.
And the issue at hand, there's two things here. There's the city's utility, and then there's a neighbor who has encroached on their land and put a driveway and there's parking their truck.
Okay, is the utility underneath that driveway?
Yes, sir.
See? What? Okay, so basically everything that I just said is true. There should have been an easement there. How was he ever able to purchase easement land that should have been?
He never did. The neighbor does not have any.
No, this man here. He bought
He's,
land that should have an easement.
again, this is why, this is,
But it's never been
That's
applied.
this is the issue at hand.
It never was.
This is, you're,
Again,
again,
easement doesn't get
It wasn't
applied.
ever
That's city
platted.
easement.
we understand, the issue at hand here is that you had a developer who defaulted before they ever got to the next phase where they would have. I don't wanna bless the previous, city, however it happened.
Right. But
I-
that's the past problems. The new problem is that he just said that the guy that's parking his truck with the driveway that's over the top of the easement, later in life, he's going to sell that property, which if he sells it, he couldn't have donated it to y'all. And that the new owner will have to work it out with the person that parks the truck in the driveway on top of the easement. This makes no sense. The two of these things don't add up together. You can't have an easement if he's going to sell it to another person.
I'm not selling them the easement.
He's not selling it.
But that's where the truck's parked. Why would the person parking the truck need to work it out with the new owner if?
No. The way this is platted is a city utility easement on private property. Mr. Durant owns the property. There's utility easements all over the city on private property where lines cross.
Right.
The neighbor poaching the property, the current property owners, because it's been vacant for so long, and improving it is a private property matter between the current owner and the existing house. The city, from the city standpoint, we can't do anything about a private property dispute.
Okay, so,
Can I further another question?
yes, please.
Okay, so the
Thank
question
you.
is, if we were to approve this, the easement's there and now the gentleman is taking the property or using the property, has a driveway, so it's not an issue between
That's
him
a
and the
city issue.
gentleman, it's now a city issue.
Exactly.
It's not a city issue because we just own an easement with the utility.
Okay, if the man is using the property to park his truck on, has a driveway there,
It's not a driveway. It's not a concrete driveway.
it's a rock.
It's rock.
So then he would still be allowed to park his truck there, or is it's a non-issue at that point, or what?
It's up to, it's not, you can park, you can landscape on an easement.
You just can't build
You can't build
a
a house.
vertical structure.
You can,
And with the understanding that if there's ever an issue, then the city's gonna come through there and bulldoze everything up and.
And then is the city then required to return that back to its original?
no.
Okay. I mean,
He's on city property.
He wouldn't be able to build a
Right?
vertical
He's gonna
structure,
become city
You
property.
couldn't build a garage.
okay,
You
that's,
can park
that's
a
where I was
truck.
getting, yeah.
because you can move the truck. And if the city needed access to that utility line,
then.
They would just go ahead and backhoe that entire utility line.
But I will, as planning commission, to get to the, just to be real, to give you guys clarity on this. The issue between the current owner and the neighbor parking is not, the city is not able to get into any kind of private property dispute. What we have done tonight is ensured that the existing transmission line is taken care of so that the city has maintenance so that it doesn't adversely affect the rest of the neighborhood.
And that's done deal. After we do this tonight, we'll never have to worry about these lines again. And unless they have broke or something, we're not gonna have to move them.
No.
All right, heck of a deal, okay. That's all I got. I'm sorry about that, I appreciate
No,
you.
it's all right.
Anything else? Anybody up there? Commissioner Rand?
Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience wants to come forward for or against this particular application? At this time, come forward. If not, I'll close the hearing. Commission? Does staff have any recommendations as far as beyond what you stated?
So to clarify everything, just to go back on here, that the previous concerns of the commission that you have brought up, Mr. Cooker, we have investigated. We have gone through title. The issue at hand is that not result of the current applicant, the previous developer filed plats and other documentation at the county's assessor's office without planning commission or city council approval. The only lots of record that the concern you brought up are not platted in phase one. So this lot, again, when we come through, there was no existing tie to the previous PUD or the country club filings. It was never platted. And the reason that they are having to come in for minor subdivision is to file the plat. And again, to the observation today, had the previous developer come in because they were the ones that installed the electric line, they would have platted that easement. So for what it's worth, you can see that there are quite a few things that point back to the fact that this was never part of any previous approval. So, and again, we can only go on what is recorded and previously done, because anything beyond 3 years is by your code is obsolete, and those previous development approvals are not valid. So we can't lean on any of that previous stuff. And then the final thing is, just for the public record, because I'm on the record, the officially adopted zoning map designates this as residential. So we're gonna stay on that, and I have to go on the previous consultant's professionalism that they updated that zoning map according to state law, which they did for a contract with the city. So just to clarify all the things on that. With all that being said, the staff is recommending approval of the minor subdivision with the land dedications and easements being platted to the city, as well as the Peak Street right of way. The only condition we had, the condition was that before certificate of occupancy, is that the curb and gutter and sidewalk be installed on that. But other than that, that's the only recommendation.
I'd like to make a motion. Make a motion based on everything that was just presented, with the conditions that the curb and gutter get taken care of and everything is met, that we wish them the best of luck and let's move forward with this project. I motion for approval.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Materana,
Yes.
Armijo,
Yes.
Spain,
Yes, ma'am.
Coker,
Yes.
Rolo,
Abstain.
Norris,
Yes.
and Leone.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Duran.
Thank you
Get
very
your house.
much. Thank you, Commission.
Thank you.
I think it's gonna be beautiful. Good luck, guys.
Next on the agenda. Item B, U.S. Properties West Incorporated, 2024 annexation, -01, Charles McAllister. Request for a major impact review for the purpose of annexation, rezone development plan, and a sign variance at property described as 40.06 acres found northeast of I-25 exit 18, northbound off-ramp, and includes a portion of County Road 32.4 from the exit ramp to Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad right-of-way. Staff.
All right, so as your first major impact review, as you will remember with the new code update, what it allows applicants to do is to basically package all of their applications so that the Planning and Zoning and Variance Commission can review the complete application instead of having to take, for instance, action just on zoning and then to look at the development plan and not like it. So it allows you to look at it holistically. Since this is your first major impact review, Nick is going to go through and each of the zoning actions so that you understand that there are separate review standards for each of those types of actions in the major impact application. So those include annexation, rezone, development plan, and also a request for a sign variance tonight. So we will go through the report and detail our observations on each of those. What I would suggest that the chair does after we do this is to allow the applicant to present, and then for the planning commission to go through each of those applications one by one in your discussion, so that we can make sure that, because each of those applications have separate conditions, so if there's any concerns about, for instance, the rezone, that we talk about the rezone and we make sure we record it and address any of those issues. So certainly we're here to assist because this is the first major impact application, but we will start with going through the review standards.
So the first one I have is for annexation. There's not a ton in the land use code for annexation. It's more just, it says refer to planning zoning for a study. So I'm just gonna list off some of the notes I have from the application in general, and then give you the condition we have as well. So so it's 1474 annexation. This project's a little different, or it's not different, but we have to do it in 2 phases. That's why we have two agenda items today. And the reason we had to do that is because, one, the entire parcel has to be annexed. It can't just be part of it. But 2, to get the 1/6 continuity required, we had to break it up. So for phase 1 is what we're gonna start to talk about right now. The entire project was about 68 acres. Phase 1's about 40, and phase 2 is about 28. So phase 1, the first 40 acres, it has the required contiguity. They submitted annexation is very heavy in noticing and communication with other government agencies. So they've submitted everything we need to do that, and we've started that process. We've also started to work on an annexation agreement, which is a requirement for, not a requirement, but it's encouraged when we do these annexations. And they've submitted everything for an annexation impact report to submit to Los Alamos County and other required parties. I think the only condition we had for that, the applicant enters into an annexation agreement to ensure compliance with CDOT access permit conditions and ensure the intersection of Elmore Road and Freedom Road are repaired to city standards before they dedicate to the city.
And before you jump to the rezone, just so that we're clear, you have 2 actions tonight that you're taking action on. The first action is the first parcel. The parcel's so large that we have to annex into 2 chunks because we don't have the full 1/6 continuity because it's only on the frontage of Elmore Road. So the first plat is the first 40 acres, and then the next agenda item will be the back half. There's no development plans for the back half of the piece of property, So that's when you see the second application, that's why it's only annexation and rezone. There's no development plan associated with that request, just for clarification. So then we'll go to
The rezone?
yeah.
So for section 1446, the zoning amendment, with an annexation, we have to have a zoning, we have to rezone it. We have done these before, so it's currently zoned as Ranchette in Los Angeles County. They're requesting zoning to be community commercial. The abutting property to the south is zoned community commercial. And that's a approved use as a gas station, a travel plaza. And the gas station may have future EV charging stations as part of the development plan. That's in there, that's part of their plan as well. The planned uses for gas station, truck stop, fueling station, diesel fueling station in the rear, a fast food restaurant with a drive-through, convenience store and RV parking. And Loves will provide snow storage on site. Snow storage on site. It does not expect snow removal from the city. In terms of the area, it's community commercial to the south and then industrial. This is attached to the industrial park. So it being zoned community commercial is very appropriate. And it's, like I said, it's approved use for a gas station. The facilities, there's no main extensions requested by Love's. These are all extensions are going to be purely service. So we're not actually extending utilities anywhere for this project.
So the utility, so to be clear on that, all of the utilities from Almora Road North are private utilities.
Yeah.
So they're not city mains, therefore there's no obligation from the city for future maintenance. Does everyone understand that?
So who's serving them?
They're private.
It's just like your water line into your house.
Yeah.
Once it goes from the meter
You're back.
it's your responsibility.
Okay.
Same.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So once the utilities cross over the property line, is Love's.
There's, I'll ask that question later.
Sure.
The sewer lines, that's got to be the lower part of it, right?
So we'll get in. We can get in. Let's finish up our. But we can go through a utility plan, and the applicant's here to can show where all the utilities can be done.
Yep. So 1424 development plan. The project's when you get city gas, water, and sewer. The power comes from San Isabel, and like I said, there's no utility extensions requested.
1424.
The applicants met a couple times, the city staff works back and forth on getting some feedback. They've added fire hydrants as requested by the fire chief and worked really well with us. They have submitted an access permit to CDOT, and I know they've had some back and forth with CDOT on their access permit. That's a requirement for a project like this. And like I said, the portion of Almora Road that is going to be dedicated city, we brought up to city standards prior to an issuance of certificate of occupancy. The development plan, they submitted a complete set. There's every, geotechnical reports, soil reports. They submitted everything. They've been reviewed by the city staff, so I don't really have any comments on that other than, they worked with us really well.
The only other piece to just keep in mind is that CDOT's access permit program controls, basically trumps the city standards because they're accessing from a CDOT right of way. So if the city if CDOT says there needs to be a left turn lane, and the city says we don't think so, it doesn't matter. CDOT gets the left turn lane. So that's why, and in all fairness to the applicant, they really can't submit to CDOT until they get their annexation and zoning approvals. So it's kind of a chicken and egg type situation, but we have verified that, and we have gotten written correspondence back from the state that they have submitted.
That's basically dependent on the number of vehicles at a certain
Yeah,
date.
and they
certain
had
time.
They've done
and everything.
they've completed a traffic study.
Right.
And I know part of the feedback was to They had a couple things that on the traffic study, but that's pretty common with CDOT.
So is it safe to say that the term in there that says to city standards is really a null and void because we really have to default to CDOT?
No, we can get into that, but the city standard piece is any of the intersection improvements. So we have in the way the we talked about this today at staff, the way the annexation draft will be, it'll be CDOT or at a minimum up to city standards.
Yeah.
So the annexation agreement, because the one thing you will know if you've been out there is that current intersection is pretty rough. And then when they go in there to put in new manholes, new water taps, it's gonna get, so they understand that they understand the requirement. It's just a matter of if they're required to add pavement for a turn lane, it drastically changes the different, versus if not. So we're waiting for the determination from CDOT on that. But regardless, that intersection we'll have it at a minimum and
Thank you.
Yeah, the staff recommendation conditions on that is, like we just talked about, the listening, or all street upgrades required by CDOT be completed. And then it must be brought up, this road must be brought up to city standards, so, yeah, that's pretty hammered home on that one. Like I said, CDOT trumps us, but we definitely get something we can accept on that, at least on that intersection and any other road. The last one, we got 1448 variance, so the applicant's requesting a sign variance from 55 feet to 80 feet. So our current code limits it 80 or 55 feet for a standalone sign. They're asking for 80. There is rolling hills, and the project site does sit in a little bit of a hole. So that's the geography definitely plays a role in the sign, as well as being able to warn trucks. We're hoping this Loves is very busy. We all see the one in Wolfsburg. But we're warning those truckers ahead of time. Hey, I gotta slow down. I gotta get over, whatever else. Giving them better warnings is gonna be a big play on this as well. Loves will have to comply with the Car Outdoor Advertising Act. And then if approved, engineering plans must be submitted to ensure the sign is structurally sound. Yeah, in the most part, they did a pretty good job on their survey. I think it's pretty in depth for everyone, but yeah, the better alerting of truckers so they can slow down appropriately, and then the rolling hills and geography, just so that project site does play a big role. I think on their survey, you can see they did a side to side with 80 and 80 foot sign and 50 foot sign, and you can see the 50 foot sign, you can't even see it from coming northbound. So that's just that's where they're at there. How do you want to go forward with all that?
Go ahead and, so with all those reviews.
Okay. So, let's see, for the recommended conditions of approval, overall, we have the applicant be required to enter into annexation agreement with City Council to ensure Almora Road improvements and repairs are brought to city and CDOT specifications prior to certificate of occupancy for the travel plaza. The zoning approval will permit the future installation of EV charging stations and RV spots as shown on submitted site plan. Almora Road must be brought up to city standards prior to issuance of certificate of occupancy for travel plaza. All street upgrades required by CDOT will be completed prior to issuance of certificate of occupancy. Loves will comply with the Car Outdoor Advertising Act as part of their sign permit, and the applicant must submit engineer plans for the sign at the time of building permit application.
Staff? Yes?
So, yeah.
Open the hearing. Anyone's here to represent Loves? Come forward, please. State your name.
My name is Nathan Curtis. I'm with Three Rocks Engineering and Surveying. We've had the pleasure of working with Loves on several of their new developments over the past few years.
A little bit louder.
Oh, sorry. In Canyon City, we worked on the RV park expansion in Walsenburg, and we're getting to work with them on a few more, including the one here in Trinidad. As Michael and Nick presented, they're proposing approximately 19 acre development on the 65 acre parcel of land that's at the northeast corner there of I-25 and El Moro intersection. It'll include a 12,000 square foot building with a quick serve restaurant and a drive-through, 65 car parking spaces, 65 truck parking spaces, 11 RV parking spaces with utility hookups, 8 gas pumps to serve 16 vehicles at a time, and 7 diesel pumps to serve 6 trucks at a time, and a truck scale as well. All utilities on the property will be private services, and stormwater management has been designed to comply with the City of Trinidad's stormwater management manual. Throughout the process, we've been coordinating with the city as well as CDOT and San Isabel to make sure they know what we're doing and we're getting feedback from them so our plans meet their standards. Parcel's not currently located in the city, so we're seeking the annexation tonight along with the rezoning as part of that. And on the sign variance, I don't know if you guys have that side by side, but and it's fine if not. I think they all have it from my understanding. So as you can see on that, the northbound 55-foot sign is the concern of Loves, namely that nobody can see the price and can only really see the very tip of the sign as you're coming northbound on I-25. To put some numbers to it, in case you want to, the base of the sign currently sits about 15 feet below I-25 as designed right now, and then it sits over 20 feet below the ramp, the off-ramp that is coming up there. So, but yeah, Loves is really excited to come here, and with that, they're excited to bring jobs, and Loves typically loves to invest in the local community that they come to. I know that they did that heavily in Canyon City, and anticipate that they will do that here as well. So, any question?
Yeah. Well, my concern is about the, it will only take 2 cars to stop by the train to block people exiting the Loves, and so my concern would be for the CDOT study to, try to keep people from getting trapped in the Loves and, that whole thing.
Yep. Yeah, and CDOT, like I said, CDOT has reviewed our access permit. They've provided comments. We're addressing those now and continuing to coordinate with CDOT. So, and as I think we talked about this last week, but as we discussed, most of those movements are just in and out of that Loves.
They won't be going out with 2 cars blocking it. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Is that
Yeah.
yes, most of the traffic will be going in that way, but it doesn't take.
I'm sorry. I'm familiar with that area.
Okay.
That was my concern.
Danielle?
I'm listening right now.
Okay.
Mr.
Coker?
I'm the one that brought that up, at the meeting with City Council. I'm very familiar with that area. And I would say I can see, in the morning times, 8 o'clock, we've been trapped by that train. And that would be, in my opinion, could be a high point of traffic because you're getting into those morning hours, people are going to work, things are happening, people are coming from out. So that can be a problem area. I find it troublesome in the morning myself personally. So I do share that slight concern because it wouldn't take but 3 semis and a couple cars and we're backed up onto the on-ramp, so to speak. So it is definitely, I would definitely be intrigued by the traffic study for sure, without a doubt on that. It says private utilities, so city will be providing water, city will be providing waste. That is that line currently, I just, for my knowledge, I don't know, I did kind of go look at, there is water on that property. I can see the tap right there where where all the work's been happening. Is there an existing sewer tap out on that side, on the north side of El Moro? Or does that have to be an extension?
Yeah, well,
Just for knowledge, I'm curious.
yeah, so as far as we know, there's no tap going north. So we're proposing right now to connect into the manhole that's in the intersection.
Won't need a lift station or anything like that.
No, we're not anticipating it. The sanitary is pretty deep there. I think it's 14 feet or something like that.
Mr. Colorado? John?
I have no questions.
I'm excited for it.
Mr. Rolo? No. Anything else you want to present to us in your report this time?
I don't think so.
I do want to say that we have been in contact with BNSF. So I've been in contact with regional manager. They've seen this whole thing. My gut tells me it takes a little while to get through it. Just because I've never had much experience with BNSF, so I don't know, but yeah, I have been in contact with them.
Can I ask another question? And this kind of revolves back. I'm not trying to beat down on this intersection, but to me, it's very important because as I stated, last week, we're dealing with three entities. We have we have CDOT, we have BNSF, we have the city of Trinidad.
And the county.
County's actually going to take over on the opposing side. But maintenance. Who is going to, we can say this is going to happen now, but who's maintaining that road? We have a cross section. Yeah, we're annexing the city, but we also have to deal with so those are little, I don't want to call it minor, because it's kind of a major thing. Who's maintaining all this?
So that's actually it's a pretty easy answer. So per the agreement, what happens is that and just like a subdivision, once the applicant brings the road up and is accepted by the city, it is the city's maintenance. Now, the only exception to that in this location is that the city operates, CDOT actually has physical right-of-way that they are responsible for maintaining on Elmore Road to the exit. And so and then the city operates through an IGA with CDOT on maintenance. So what will wind up happening is regardless, the simple answer is that CDOT is going to require a lot more than the city standards for their application. And so, but what we're doing in the annexation agreement is backfilling that with the city's standards, just so that so for instance, if CDOT says our right of way ends right there and there's another 100 feet that you're annexing that we aren't going to maintain in the future, the annexation agreement assures that the intersection is brought up to city code prior to the city taking on maintenance.
But how does BNSF come into play? Because I'm sure I feel confident knowing that there is a point of line that says BNF says, no, this is me. I have a standard here, so I guess for me, those are fine little points because that can become a conflicting interest because again, we're dealing with three different entities on this one point.
And to be clear, BNSF is a private company, right? So I think when you think of a railroad, you think it's like a public entity, but they are private, and they've been forwarded the application and been granted. But the railroad crossing on their right of way is actually the vehicular access is actually controlled by CDOT. So, and if CDOT doesn't address it, then we as the city have through the annexation agreement the ability to address it. But from the letter we received back from CDOT, they're aware of it. So that's why we're deferring to the CDOT access permit code because that. They certainly have a lot more control because it's of the I-25 corridor there. And so I guess the point of being is that we're ensuring that with the execution of the annexation agreement, we're covered on both bases. But the rail, just like any other property owner, has been notified. And so we hope, we've elevated, we've gone above and beyond to elevate it to them to say, please speak up. But that's just like any private property owner that chooses not to participate in the public process. That's where we're at.
And on the sign, it's sitting so low and looking at all that stuff. I mean, yes, I mean, it would be, in my opinion, it is very imperative that we are capturing our traffic. And more so because I find, because the words keep coming up as, well, we have one in Walsenburg, well, we have one in Pueblo, we have one in Fountain, and they're all not that far away. And in theory, when I look at things, it goes here, here, here. But Walsenburg and Trinidad are gonna be like this. But the last truck stop we have going south is quite a long distance away. So I do believe that capturing our northbound, I mean, southbound, we'll see the sign. There's no question about that. But capturing that northbound traffic is gonna be imperative. So I just wanted to say that too.
If I can, just because I've been trying to picture this traffic thing that you two brought up in my mind, and I still can't picture it. So you're worried about cars turning, I guess, if they're traveling out of the Loves, turning
No,
away?
when you come off the interstate and you're going down towards the train tracks, because your turn-in is gonna be right before the train tracks, right? And now, I can't quite tell, but is that straight across from Freedom Road, or is it kind of a jog over? So it's straight across. So when you look there, if like, let's just say 8 o'clock in the morning, because at 8 o'clock in the morning, I promise you, they're right around that time, there's gonna be trains. And I can show up there and have 6 or 7 cars backed up because they're trying to go to the opposing side of El Moro, to the county side. And so now if we're bringing truck traffic and all that in there, I only say this because I have property out there and I'm out there every day. So I can see where these problems could arise with off-coming traffic from the highway at certain times of the day. It's not all the time, but again, 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:55, people are going to work, people are doing things, and that can be a troublesome.
So just to clarify, just so, because I'm not just trying to follow this too.
Okay.
Your issue is that the queue for the railroad track, folks pull past Freedom Road and sit in the intersection?
Now, if you're coming off the highway.
Right. Yeah, if you're coming.
Yep, and you get backed up because the train stops.
Yep.
Then 2 cars block El Moro North, you can't turn left.
I can
You
show.
won't be able to get, it blocks the whole intersection.
Hang on, John.
But the question though is, the question is making the left out of Freedom Road.
But we're gonna block, no. If you're coming off the interstate, if you have 4 cars, 6 cars that are backed up against the railroad track, you're not turning into you're not turning into Loves. You're blocked.
You're queued. Yep. And even with the only thing that we could talk to the state about, Nathan, is you'd actually have to do like a full twiddle all the way down that. So you would have to extend, because typically what is it, about 70 feet that they require for a turn? It depends on speed. Yeah.
But that's a pretty narrow, that is a pretty narrow.
So again, so you're hitting on your point here. Again, the CDOT, because it's a controlled CDOT access point and an access permit, they control whether the warrant for the left turn is needed.
Gotcha.
So even if the city said there was a warrant and CDOT says no, we couldn't make them put it in because that pavement extension is in their right of way.
Understood.
So we understand your concerns, but it is valid, and I think we can have a call. We actually have a call into them already trying to explain that, but.
Thank you for the clarification.
The 6 PM is you'll see when you come, you'll see the schedule.
I just heard it.
Anybody else? I can guarantee you one thing, that whatever CDOT designs, it'll be appropriate. I have a couple of gravel pits that had to put in an extra lane. And they gotta be able to see a distance, so far of a distance, both ways. It has to be a clear distance. And so it's up to CDOT, and I'm pretty sure that they're gonna come through with some kind of a plan that's gonna be, I don't think there's gonna be a problem. But, that's just my opinion.
And for the record, Loves is aware of the CDOT access permit and is going to comply.
Yes.
Mr. Benny? Okay. Anybody else? Okay, you can sit down.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Staff, anything else?
Members of the public. Anything from the, so we don't have anything else, but if you wanna, if there's anyone from the public that's, leave the public section.
Any public comments? Anybody want to come up for or against this particular application? Come forward.
I got a couple of questions. My name's Bill Blatnick. I own I guess it's like 28 acres to the north of where they're gonna do the Loves. I have a well that's been drilled on that property. It's unpermitted, but in the future, I was looking at building our house there to get out of the hustle bustle of Trinidad. And it's gonna connect right to me. And the stormwater management, all the water that comes from this truck stop is gonna go through the ditch on my property. And with that much more traffic, how much is that gonna impact me being able to permit that well or water going into that? And the other one was the stormwater going to the ditch for me to access both sides of my property.
So the stormwater management plan does not permit any additional flow off the property. So all flows in which they've submitted have to be contained. So the overflow ditches are beyond a 100-year storm, so in a rare event, but per state code, CDPHE, you're not allowed to discharge on other property. So any overflow, so what they've submitted to us is a drainage study showing that the new retention areas, any of the flow that comes off of the parking areas, et cetera, go in there. And then the other piece of the puzzle, or the other important thing, I think, contaminant, they actually have when I speak to the oil catch basin, that will actually catch any kind of, and they actually have an oil separator before we even go into the storm sewer.
So where will the storm sewer go from the property?
You want to explain your drainage plan?
Happily. The drainage plan on the, can you pull it up?
Yeah, you might have to tell me which page.
Yeah, look at 8.0, I believe.
Okay. And so before you do this, I just want to if the applicant, would you please, because you're the engineer of record here, would you please explain CDPHE's requirement of you and the city's requirement that you cannot discharge any additional flows first, and then explain that. So sorry, would you take?
Yeah. So yeah.
Sorry.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So yeah, what Michael was saying is basically per the city and CDPHE, we're required to look at what the historic flows are, so what they are now with nothing on the property, and calculate out what are the flows, what's the volume of water flowing through there. And then when we come to construct, we have to figure out, okay, how much are we increasing that flow? And then we have to design facilities like stormwater basins and ditches to slow that flow down and make sure that it's equal to or less than the historic flow, which is what we've done here. And so historically, the water does flow down to that, where we are at least, the water flows down to the southeast corner and passes under Elmore Road. So our water does continue that direction, but we have basins on the east side of the access drive, and then on that very south kind of middle section, right when you get into the site, right through the access on the left there's another detention facility. And those are designed for the 100-year storm, which, as Michael said, is a pretty significant storm event that you don't see very often, but that is what the CDPHE and City of Trinidad requires. So. Yes, did I answer all the questions?
Why don't you just take a seat and then let's see if there's any other questions.
I guess he said that it's all gonna go toward Elmore, but that's the
So why don't you clarify there, so.
Show him on the map.
Yeah, and just to
Welcome-
clarify,
welcome
you're
to
the
the
property to the north, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay, so just to clarify too, there's a big, you can't see it on this plan. You can see
It
the
goes right through my property, that big
that
ditch.
ditch, yeah, so actually, we are diverting most of the water down to here. There is a little bit that we're letting flow back that direction, but historically, most of the water flows this way, and then it's very flat near the tracks, but it makes its way down here slowly. And so, we've looked at both sections and ensured that the new flow will be equal to or less than what is happening now. And we're controlling that through our detention facility.
And a stormwater management plan for development of this is required by the state, and their standards and the city standards are the same. So the state actually, what was it, about before COVID, about 4 years ago, actually codified in the state statute that you're not allowed to discharge anything beyond historic flow in any new development. And development of this size actually requires what they have submitted, which is a full-blown drainage study. So your concerns are very valid, but the state statutes as well as the city codes do not allow them to discharge anything beyond. And again, the one exception to that is the standard is a 100-year event. So if you get a 1,000-year event, the standard is to design to 100 year. So that there is a, you could get a massive, like the Boulder floods event. This isn't designed to handle the Boulder floods, but it's designed to handle the statutory requirement of a 100-year event.
Okay, the other question I have is annexing the property. That's not gonna have any concerns of anything I wanna build or put onto my property there?
No. So the only time you would potentially, and you own the property in the north, correct?
Yes.
So if you ever were to become an enclave where you're completely surrounded by city property, that's the only time that a city could forcibly force annexation on an applicant. However, it's my understanding that the city has never forced annexation on anyone, but I can't speak for future councils. But as of today, the only thing that if you are directly north of this parcel, you would have eligibility to annex into the city if you wanted to, but you are not required.
Okay. Yes, answered all my questions.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience present anything for or against a particular application? Not, close the hearing. Commissioner?
I think we covered most of the bases. Can we make a motion to approve?
Got a motion to approve, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion more than second, roll call?
Moderano,
Yes.
Armijo,
Yes.
Spain,
Yes, ma'am.
Coker,
Yes.
Rolo,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Leone.
Yes. Moving on.
Good luck, sir.
Thank you.
C,
Still,
U.S. Properties West Incorporated, 2024 annexation -02, Charles McAllister, request for a major impact review for the purpose of annexation and rezone of the property described as 28.10 acres, found north of the tract described in 2024 annexation 01 between I-25 right-of-way and the Burlington Northern right-of-way. Staff.
So this is the second piece to what we just talked about. If we're going to annex, we have to annex an entire parcel. This parcel being 28 acres, I guess we'll go through it like last time. So annexation, if this is a phase 2, so it's 28 acres, it has the 1/6 contiguity as required. It has that contiguity with the previous piece we just talked about. This one doesn't have any development plan, sign, variance, anything like that. This is simply just annexation rezone. Yeah, the annexation, they sent us everything. This would be the same, the annexation impact report would be the same thing. We'll submit those. This is one full package. Just for our proceedings, we have to do it in 2 different pieces. For the rezone, just remain consistent throughout the entire parcel. So that'd be community commercial. It's currently ranchette, just like the last piece. Yeah, there's no real conditions. Like I said, it's just kind of building upon the last what we just talked about. And this is just the second piece of it. That's all I have.
Would that property have access to sewer and water too?
No, it'd have to be private. So if they ever desire to run in case of extra development or something like that, they'd have the opportunity, but that'd be purely on Love's or the property owner.
Because it's going to be part of.
Staff, hang on. Staff ready?
Yes.
I'll open it here. Game, Mr. Water.
The property, the other property that we have to annex because it's all that partial, it's gonna be part of the city property, right?
Yes.
And so they should have access to sewer and water there, right?
They do. They have access via their own property to extend the services further. The only way to answer, I think, just beat around the bush to answer, say they were to dispose and subdivide this property and wanted to, like, say this was a subdivision instead of an annexation plat, and then wanted to cut that off. They currently aren't, through the access drive, are not dedicating or building that access to city standards, so it's not a public right of way. So it would be problematic for them to subdivide into a separate parcel and then for the city to have a main there. So the city services would be private for any future development of the parcel, but all indications are that Love's intends to hold on to the entire parcel.
Okay. Anybody you want to come forward again?
I don't have anything additional to say, so.
You want to come forward?
He said he doesn't have one.
Oh, you don't have nothing?
No, I don't have anything additional.
So basically, this is just an expansion for future, so if they want you to do something like the campground, then they have that option.
Yeah.
And the way I understand it is it would be on them to expand the city utilities.
They would to do an additional, for instance, if they were to do an additional campground, they would have to come back with a development plan. And
right, we just need to annex this into this.
No, this is now annexed and zoned. So they'll be able to skip the annex and zoning piece of it and just come back for development plan.
Okay, all right, understood.
So I got a question. Is this gonna be as big as the one in Walsenburg, or?
For the truck stop, I think we didn't design the original truck stop in Walsenburg. This might be a little bit bigger than it, just because of the amount of truck parking that they have in the back there.
Be bigger than the one in Walsenburg?
Yeah, and
because the one in Walsenburg has RV parking too.
yeah, there's no RV. So the one in Walsenburg has an RV campground that was just added by us, by Love's, but we were the consultant.
Not the parking.
Yeah, I don't think it has RV parking. But there will be no RV campground here at this time. And as far as we know, Love's has no plans to develop further to the north at this time, so.
Then I'm definitely misunderstanding. I thought that they said they had 11 RV spots with utilities.
Yes, they do. They do have the 11 spots, but those are just, if you pull up the plan.
On the existing 40 acres.
But they have utilities, those are RV spots.
Yeah.
It's not. So
I guess.
At the Love's in Walsenburg, there's a separate campground, like next adjacent to it.
It's not a ground, it's just a
Yeah,
spot.
The RV spots here, if you go to C 3.0, I think that would be it for you. You're at 7.1 right now. Down one, yeah. The RV spots on this one are right in this corner down here. Ooh, I touched it.
So they're not long-term spots, they're.
No, there's actual, So I think where we're getting confused here, guys, is that the Walsenburg's Loves has a full-blown
Yes.
RV park.
Right?
They have RV parking spaces.
With
With
utilities.
utilities.
With utilities, yes.
You
but-
can still stay there for 24 hours, right?
Yeah, well, you're right.
Yes,
I think it's thematic of that, the fact that this is way smaller than how big is the one at Walsenburg?
I don't even know, I mean, it was, so I'm kind of new to our company, I came here a year ago and they were already working on it, so I don't know how many spaces, I mean, they had a lot.
Yes, it's very big. So I think and they actually have a bathroom facility and.
It's very nice, I saw it. Really
That's
nice.
fine.
Very nice, I just wanted to,
Yeah.
it seemed like two different things we were saying there.
But yes, technically people can stay here over
Okay. Anything else for staff?
No.
Anyone in the audience for or against this particular application? Come
Oh.
forward.
One more question for me is, since I own the acreage above it, what do I have to do to get my acreage annexed into the city property?
You'd have to come and talk to staff.
Okay.
That's what you'd
Well,
have to do.
I'm against them annexing the property there unless I could get annexed in the city, that way I have the right of way for city utilities.
Yeah, so annexation is a request that you would have to do as a private property owner. And so you can file an annexation petition, just as this applicant did. But as far as, the commission can take your comments, but the applicant has filed to annex this piece of property, the whole parcel. So you would have to independently come in, the city wouldn't force annexation on you.
Okay, that's what I'm requesting.
You have to file an annexation petition.
I will come in and do that, but like I said, I'm against the annexation of that property until I get annexed also, so I can have the right of way for the city utilities.
So that's public comment.
Okay.
We accept your comment.
We can't answer them. Can't answer them. You can tell us, and they'll take it to staff, and then that's where it'll go.
Okay.
Right now, we are not into that. We
Okay.
can listen to you and take that to staff.
Okay.
And so the review standards, so
It'll be recorded
Yeah.
in the minutes.
Okay.
But the review standards, certainly they can take public comment in there, but the requirements of this annexation don't require additional.
So, if I start a petition, how many signatures would I need to stop
So
the annex process of this?
you would file an appeal of an ordinance, and I would suggest talking to the city clerk on the process of filing an appeal.
And who's the city clerk I need to talk to?
Audrey Gallagher.
Okay,
I don't know the official council. I'm sorry, sir.
okay. All right,
Thank
that's
you.
all I have.
Thank you. Okay. Close the hearing. And I would recommend that whoever makes the motion, that they put the motion with all the recommendations that the city has put forward.
You can, in your motion, you can just say to find the city's recommendation in the city staff report. You don't have to read it.
Do we have to change the last one that we did?
You made your motion.
I'm sorry,
You guys made your motion on the last one.
I don't know who did it, but it was, they just said to approve, didn't have like orders.
We didn't have the conditions of in that last motion.
Right here, the last one. And here is these.
Sorry.
No, you're fine, hold on.
That's just, that's roll. That's the 40 acre.
I didn't write it down, it just says that Mr. Norris
Yeah,
made the
just made
motion, but he
motion to
didn't say, he just said motion to approve. He didn't say the city staff. we can go back
Uh,
and do both
Well,
at the same
we'll
time?
do this, finish this hearing, and then you can reopen the public hearing for the first application and amend your motion, but you're currently under item C. So let's finish the item C and then you guys can revisit item D.
So this is, there's no recommendations for item six.
There's no condition.
There's no conditions, yes.
Just for,
Okay. All right, well. Open for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second, roll call.
Moderano,
Yes.
Armijo,
Yes.
Spain,
Yes, ma'am.
Coker,
Yes.
Rolo,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Leone.
Yes. Going on to D, formal recommendations for amendments to chapter 14 land use
Do
code.
we want to go back and open up the other ones so we
So
can
if
make
you want to add conditions to B, the applicant, you're okay with them?
Yeah.
Okay, so, you would so the process would be to reopen item B.
Who
And,
made the motion?
That was Mr.
I made
Norris.
the motion.
and so, we'll do, so for the chair, I would reopen the hearing.
U.S. Properties West Incorporated, 2024 annexation, 01, Charles McAllister, request for major impact review for the purpose of annexation, rezone development plan, and sign variance of property described as 40.06 acres, found northeast of I-25, exit 18 northbound off a ramp, and include the portions of County Road 32.4 from the exit ramp to Burlington North Santa Fe Railroad right-of-way.
So you guys had a motion and a second. If so entertained, the person, you made the motion?
Yeah.
You could entertain an amendment to your motion with to add the
Yeah,
staff.
okay, so I will add to my previous motion to include the recommendations of the city.
The condition.
The conditions.
Including these cities, yes.
I will resecond that motion with the amendment. Roll call.
Moderano,
Yes.
Armijo,
Yes.
Spain,
Yes, ma'am.
Coker,
Yes.
Rolo,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Leone.
Yes. Staff, I'm sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
I missed it. Okay. We've got some people up here on our board that have some commitments tonight.
I need to get medicine in my eyes, I'll
So-
be right back.
Sure.
'Cause I can't keep.
You want to take a 5-minute recess?
Please.
You want to take a 5-minute recess?
What's that?
You want to take a 5-minute recess?
Yes. Have a 5-minute recess. Formal recommendations for amendments to chapter 14 land use code.
We need our,
Sorry. Let's see, she wasn't there.
find it too.
I have mine on one sheet.
Okay, Desiree.
You waited on me.
Open the meeting. Formal recommendations for amendments to chapter 14 land use code. Yeah.
So this is something we've been working on for a couple months now. I think it was back in March, we brought some ideas, vague general ideas, just some stuff to help clean up our land use code ever since it's been adopted. Or the new code's been adopted, and I do wanna say we got 7 of them, I believe, 6 of them. We brought 8 of them last time. One of them we dropped, and that was a public, or we brought 7 of them last time. One of them was a public land dedication. I just wanna tell you guys, we're gonna have to do some further investigation on that. So we kinda dropped that from this, what we've been pushing right now, and, we're gonna revisit it at some point, but we do wanna revisit it, just not right now. So, I wanna give you guys that heads up.
And I think just for to add on to that, what we've just, the concerns that you had about amending that without having some background information were well founded. And so we're looking into the requirements of doing what is basically an impact fee and ensuring that we follow proper protocols to create that nexus. Because the current rec master plan is dated. And so we want to ensure that we can fall back to either that rec master plan or a new rec master plan might need to be updated prior for us bringing recommendations to reference that. So we're continuing to work on the parks and land dedication, but it's, again, the idea behind these are a lot of really administrative cleanup issues versus something that's pretty substantial. So we heard those comments and we're like,
So like I said, I think we have 6 recommendations. How do we go?
Why don't you go through each one and then,
Yeah, okay.
sorry, I'm trying to make it straight.
Yeah, cool. So I'll go through each of them. So the first one was the definition for setback, section 1413. We run into sometimes there's no, let me see. Proposed update to the definition is to better define the last part of the definition for setback. So you can see in the formal recommendation there, setback shall mean required distance in land resulting therefrom between the edge of a right-of-way public right-of-way or some other designated line and the closest possible line of the addition there is the face of the conforming structure. That way we're not measuring to an eave or some overhang. And that's something that does catch us up when we're going through some of our administrative building permits.
That makes sense.
So just to make sure if our setback is 10 feet, for example, it's measured to the face of the structure, so that's actual building, not just an overhang. Which does affect people, especially in our community where they're trying to squeeze something in and they're, oh, I want to follow by the setbacks, but then we're saying, well, you got to scoot over a foot. And you say, I don't have it, and stuff like that. So it's just something that helps. I think that's in the spirit of the definition, to measure from the face. So
for clarification, if you were gonna put a structure, a new shed in the backyard and you had to be 5 feet, if your building was 5 feet, but your soffit or your fascia overhang back and it would be 4 feet, we're not measuring from that, we're measuring from the face.
That's correct.
Just front and back setbacks or sides?
All setbacks.
All setbacks, okay. I wasn't clear on that because it mentioned being frontage of the
Yeah, this is just the definition of setback. So general overall in the entire land use code, definition of setback.
And then, sorry, real quick, we'll do your question. The other thing is there's another recommendation in here that allows for up to an 18-inch encroachment of eaves. And in historic towns like Trinidad, and I had the same issue in the historic Salida has a massive historic district. Your architecture promotes ease on residential structures. And so you'll see that this also jives with the actual setback table to allow, so it does, while we've measured to the face, it also allows, it sets a maximum of 18 inches for those eaves, so somebody can't do like a 4.5 foot eave into that. So this kind of pairs with that other recommendation as well.
Which is further back.
Yeah, but we'll get to that here in a minute, but I just want to make sure you know that.
How would this change to the rule affect like a balcony or a raised deck?
That is, so those are considered structure, so again, that's the face. So they fall under the definition of structure.
Perfect.
Next.
Okay. Section 1423, classification of development limited impact review. We wanted to provide some clarification under site plan limited review that are permitted uses by table 1442A are exempt from limited impact review.
So what we currently have, and here's the issue, is that when we did this update, we were trying to be development friendly. There's no review standards for a permitted use, right? So a conditional use has, and that's why they come in front of you for a public hearing, is they're being reviewed. As you saw with, like, for instance, the Edward Jones building, it was like, what are we reviewing, right? Because it's permitted. And as you probably, I mean, not that they don't want to come see you, but bringing them into waiting a month long to pull a building permit isn't exactly development friendly. So the idea is that if it's permitted, then they can proceed to a building permit versus having to come in just because it's a commercial use. And I think there's already some kind of vague language in the code that does that, but this really just makes it.
Yeah, you have to kind of dig through the code. I've had developers someone look for a building permit for a commercial building and they say, well, no, it says right in your code, site plan, I'm doing a commercial building, I'm going limited impact. And then there's some things that are like, well, no, if you go back to this code, it's like 53 or something, 1453. It says no, because it's a permitted use. And they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, well, I don't want people to be, feel rejected or, there's 6 weeks onto my project. So that's just kind of, it's just adding that so people better understand.
Kind of streamlining the process.
Yeah, definitely. And it helps promote it. It does, because like I said, I've talked to architects where they say, well, it says limited impact, I looked through your code, and I'm like, yeah, but you can go back to this, and it actually says it's your permitted use, so you're okay. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense, but, he was gearing up for, having to come to us, which, like Michael said, they love coming to see you guys, but sometimes it's a couple weeks.
This is kind of like what all this stuff that we've been talking, because some of the parts of the code kind of make it to where either it's going to be costly or they have to come back with this time and then they have to come back for this. We're just trying to streamline it.
Definitely.
Understood.
Anything else?
So does it?
Go ahead.
Are you guys?
No.
I mean, are you guys okay with this? I mean, because this is part of what we're talking about. This isn't them just going through this. I mean, we have to be in agreement. That is
this is a public hearing,
right? Yeah. And are you guys good with their verbiage? I mean, to make sure that we're saying yay. That's what we're saying yay to.
We have to vote on each one.
No, you're not gonna vote on each one. We want to go through all of them, and if there are particular ones that we need to omit, then we'll do that in your motion.
Okay.
But I think Commissioner Cooker's advice to the rest of the commission is, please speak up now so that we can address each one as we go through, instead of trying to do it on the back end of all this, because it'll make it more expedited for us.
I think a little more beneficial. Yeah. So number 3 is section 1428, major impact review procedure. There's some cases, so with a major impact review, you have to have a conceptual review. We just had one last week, I believe, last week. with Loves than they came here today. So I think they are beneficial. I think that was beneficial to staff, I know that. So we do like this. But staff was looking to add some verbiage to the city manager can maybe, or can waive the conceptual review if it's not gonna be beneficial. And I think this is more geared towards maybe those vacates, where vacation's a major impact review. But if they do a conceptual review, I don't know how much anyone's gonna get out of it. Because they're saying, I'm right here, this is what I'm gonna take out, and then next week, they're coming to see us anyway, at this meeting.
I think the point of making this concept review and with a major impact review is that when you have a major development, the idea of having the planning commission and council in the room to provide developer feedback, what the reason we do that, it was just like for what happened with the Loves application, right? You guys provided feedback on the intersection, we were able to go back and do some research and get that on something that's very clear cut, that you're pulling you in and having the city councils get seated, and it's just not, it's not streamlined for the applicant. So what I will say is just keep in mind two things on this. One, I don't think the city manager is going to take his discretion lightly. And to be quite honest with you, the way the city's process currently works is actually, in all honesty, is one of the best processes I've ever been a part of, is that all applicants come in and meet with every department head. And so if there's major issues with somebody, where there's issues being discussed, that's gonna trigger the manager saying, yes, you're going to concept review. But there are some, for instance, like a vacate, where having you sit in front of the city council to explain that half the road's going to this person, half the road's going to this person, just to bring you into a meeting, what we're trying to do is to not lose value in when you guys are seated with the city council. And then keep in mind, the way this reads is, if we waive the requirement, the first step is to come in front of the planning commission. So it's not like they're not seeing you, it's just we're avoiding having a meeting where we have you come in for a second meeting that month where you have to come and sit. So I mean, I do know that on this one, there's some discretion being given to the city manager, but I mean, in the code, it's always the city manager. But to be honest with you, the way that is it's actually, that decision isn't made in a vacuum. And it's just part of the way the process of the city unfolds, is because of that pre-application conference meeting, which is required in the code.
I would say when I walked out of there, I felt like, why was I here? Because what I heard didn't give me a lot of information, right? But with the statement you just made, I would feel very compelled, because the one statement you said is that by us, because I brought up about the road and how much a horrific thing, and Mr. Norris touched on that as well. Knowing that one small thing, and it's probably the biggest thing in my opinion, out of what really came of our part of that, actually, what I thought was small actually is rather larger, and I feel appreciative that it was taken. So with that said, I would hope that city manager, staff really looks into a little bit harder, because something that I took we took hard into that, but if it was taken into that, I mean, that can happen big or small on anything.
Yeah, and the other piece of the puzzle on this is concept review for an applicant is actually really to the applicant's benefit, right? Because if they come into concept review with an idea that might not hold water, it's their chance to hear that before they pay architects and engineers to provide all the plans to come in. So that's the other piece of this. So it really is while the final determination has to be made by the city manager, the applicant can also weigh in and say, I don't think I'm concerned enough that I'm gonna gamble and spend all the money on the engineering now. There's
That's
the,
why we did that, and then they were immediately here, because they,
so, again, all of these recommendations you're seeing tonight, this is why we're lumping them all together, are to try to continue to be development friendly and encourage and try to get rid of the bureaucracy when it's not needed. So that's what this is. And again, we're just trying to improve the process as we move forward on this. And if this is something you're comfortable with, then we'll keep it. Again, I don't think from where we sit, we're like, this has to happen. We're just trying to, we're looking at ourselves in the mirror and we're trying to be better. So
I agree with that, but I just, a part of my heart tells me that, and again, I have to revert back to how I felt. I was like, why was I here? And I never felt any different until you made that one statement. So you made that one statement, something that I thought was a very small, just a small proportion of anything. And actually, it came out to be very important to me, because I will stand. I'm very adamant about that. I'm very adamant. So something that in the future, on something that might seem small, that we could be left out of, could have a very impactful bearing on a certain project.
And again, I think what I will say is, my experience as I'm an outsider, right? I come in on Tuesdays, and Tuesday mornings at 8:30, I have every Tuesday morning. And so what I can tell you though is that the city's interaction with development applications is unique, because in no other municipality have I ever sat where the fire chief, the water, wastewater, every one of the department heads gives an hour of their week for anybody who wants to come in and talk about development. So again, that's why I'm saying I'm pretty comfortable in that. I know Steve and Steve attends those meetings too. He listens to the staff, and if the application is a major impact and is rising where there's issues, then we're going to do that. And I think Loves is a great example, because there were.
I will say, we're going to lean towards doing conceptual review, just because, like you just said, Sam, I got a lot out of it. Even though we may have not felt like it was very beneficial to us. We had a pretty decent list come out of that, say, hey, we got to focus on this, and ask the applicant questions. Hey, do you have a plan for this, or have you thought about this? And like I said, we're going to lean towards doing a conceptual review. There's just going to be times where there's a vacate, and I'm like, I don't know if it's going to help anyone, and it just adds an extra week, adds an extra public hearing I know it's informal, but it adds just something for anyone.
because they still have to go to the.
And they still come to you, and then they still go to city council.
And a lot, there's.
But yeah, in general, because it's kind of my show, 8:30 Tuesday mornings, I lead it, and I'm gonna lead any real development. We're gonna end up doing a conceptual review. If it warrants major impact, it does it for a reason.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna take this one because this one is a big one.
Go for it.
Sorry. So your subdivision code, when I first touched it, and again, when I did your update, we really focused in on process. The thing that you don't have, which was unique to me, is you don't have subdivision exemptions in your code. Everything is either a minor or a major, and it has to go through a full-blown process. The adjustments of like property lines or a correction to a plat, or under state statute, and this has been an experience in Trinidad that I have not had in other places, but you have a lot of this. You have meets and bounds descriptions, and they've never had a boundary line plat done. Under statute, that surveyor is required to file that plat. So when they go and they set a new monument or create a boundary plat, they must, under statute, they can't just hand that to, if they set a survey pin and they do that under statute, they have to file that plat with the county. The issue is that because you don't have subdivision exemptions, we have to bring them, if they were to do it, say you end up meeting balance description and they filed, and they came out and they did they reset your pins and did a survey, they would have to come in for minor subdivision under your code. To me, that's pretty crazy, but more importantly, it doesn't, I have gotten pushback. For instance, the Edward Jones property, I'll use that now that you've approved it, that was a meets and bounds description. The surveyor came in, did the plat, and was like, I'm just following the statutes here, there's no subdivision, and we were like, no, you're filing a plat in the city limits, you have to come in and do subdivision. That plat should have been allowed, in almost every other zoning code I've ever worked in, that plat is an administrative approval, so the city manager signs off and looks at the plat to make sure that they're not doing something on that plat that would trigger subdivision, but it's a pass-through application. And that also applies to, for instance, if you own two properties, if you're the owner of both properties and you have a property line in the middle and you want to build a house in the middle of two properties, you need to eliminate that lot line. Again, having to come in to file for a building permit, which should just be a building permit, but you legally, because you're building your house in the center, right, you would not meet setbacks of those two property lines. So these are the types of applications that would go forward through administrative review versus a minor subdivision. And again, it's with keeping with like, how do we allow folks to not be burdened by your codes? And so, as you will see, there's quite a bit that's being added in here as far as those, and so I'll go through each one real quickly, and then if you want to jump back in, we can. But lot line or an easement adjustment or lot line consolidation, again, you're talking about either someone having to plat an easement or having to again, this wouldn't be, in no case would the property owners be two separate property owners, right? So where you're doing an adjustment just between two contiguous parcels. It doesn't affect the zone district can't per the code affect the zone district standards and not create additional opportunities to create a new lot for future subdivision, for resale, et cetera. So it really is just somebody coming in and trying to make their lot a little bit. So I'll stop there. Is there any questions about this one?
Just to make sure I'm following you,
Sure.
the items in red is what you're adding?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Everything else stays exactly the same?
Correct. All right. Lot consolidation, again, we're adding in the utilities piece. Doesn't create any type of structures or being relocated. And again, we're adding the clarification that has to be under single ownership on the consolidation, because obviously anytime you create an application that has two property owners, you probably need a public hearing so that you can hear that both owners consent. Re-subdivision, again, this is a process in which somebody is bringing in a plat to create or fix something that needs to be referenced. It's, you know, they are, well, this one actually, re-subdivisions are actually required to go through major subdivision. Sorry.
Yeah, we were just pissing them.
Yeah, so, sorry. This one is not part of the subdivision exemptions. This one actually, so if you have somebody that goes into and files, well, no, I'm not gonna use that example. Sorry, I'm gonna back up. If somebody has an existing plat that you've approved and they want to amend that plat, but this re-subdivision process is saying is that you have to go back through the public process. You currently don't have that in your code at all. So actually you and I we probably need to move this out of subdivision exemption and up to the section right above it. I should have caught that earlier. But this is a missing section in your code. So if somebody has an existing plat and is going to subdivide the lots up even further, that's re-subdivision, that's minor or major depending on lot sizes.
Yeah, because what threw me a little bit, and I wasn't sure if I was understanding, but it says by way of adding or deleting land. And I was thinking, how can that be?
No, this, you just don't have it in your code. Sorry, this needs to be added to the code, but it needs to be the section above.
So it's not an exception?
No, this is
Okay.
actually, so this is just adding re-subdivision.
Yeah, because I wrote a note here going, is this a mistake?
It is.
Okay.
Amended plats, again, you know, there's a lot of times that after development starts going on, they do a major subdivision. I mean, tonight's example would have been like they needed to add, there's a utility line there after they start engineering and having to come in and refile a utility easement on an amended plat. Again, something that doesn't materially affect your approval qualifies under amended plat on that. If it does, then it gets kicked back to a public process. Insubstantial changes to a recording of boundary line plat and filing of plats. These again go back to these are under statutory regulations. But what this does is it requires the surveyor prior to filing those plats that they actually have to come in and get the manager's signature on it. That assists the city in two ways. One, the city now has a fresh boundary line plat that they know exists, and we have it on our records, so that we know because they're most likely coming in to pull a building permit or do something with their land. And then two, again, we also now know that we have, when a boundary line plat is created, we now have those up to date.
But it was filed also with the county, correct?
Yeah, so they still have to file it. What all it is the only thing that this changes is that there's a plat note that says city sign off, and the city manager's now the signature. So it would just be a normal boundary line plat, but there's a block for Steve that will sign it. And what happens is basically the way administrative review works is the city must review the application within 7 days. And if there's a reason to deny it, the appeal goes to you guys.
Can we go back to amended plats?
Sure.
Are you saying, can you explain, re-subdivision you want to move out, right? For that?
Yes.
On the amended plats, you're leaving that in?
Yes.
So, see where it says by way of adding or deleting land or lots to the subdivision? If you're adding lots to the subdivision, that wouldn't be administrative, would it?
So amended lots do not create additional lots or interests, but are subdivision actions that result in material change to the boundary of subdivision by way of adding or deleting lots or the reconfiguration of the existing plats. So I get what you're saying here. So what should be struck out of here is this sentence. So let me strike it. So you would say amended plats do not create additional lots or interest in property, but are subdivision actions that result in material change in boundaries of the subdivision or reconfiguration, division of existing platted lots.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Let me just read the rest of it now.
So scratching by way of adding, basically.
You guys agree? See that?
Yeah, I see it.
So then the remainder of this is basically saying that if the next sentence is saying that if it affects more than 10 lots or is a re-subdivision, then it goes back to the process. Yeah, okay. So that the statement below it is just saying that if it hits any of those thresholds, it is a major subdivision. Okay, so I think that's a great catch. Anything else on that? All right, next one. The historic preservation stuff. Another great catch by the commission. So, here we go. I'll let you.
Okay.
He did the research.
Yeah, so, at the March meeting, we talked about adding the definition for, and this, so the main issue with this is, in 1439 establishment of zone districts, we have a definition for HP, core zone de Trinidad historic preservation, but our map has two different things on the legend. It has HPMU, so that's historic preservation mixed use, and HPRD, which is historic preservation residential. But that wasn't in the code, so we are looking to add the definitions just to make sure our map and our code match up. While we were going through this and trying to dig through it, because Commissioner Rollo brought up great points on that March meeting, we did a lot of digging. And in the end, we kind of went through all the ordinances that were passed. One was repealed. But in the end, we went and we dug through the code to make sure we got this straight. We were trying to add some language to, one, make sure people are aware that the HP is kind of governed if your building's landmarked, but if it's not, it's more optional. So we were trying to add some language to do that. Then we're also adding, we used, I believe it's ordinance 1905, yeah, and they established the difference. That's when they broke it apart from just HP in general to HP mixed use, HP residential, and that's kind of how we got our definitions there. So our recommendation, and again, this is to clarify. HP, or historic preservation, is for landmark buildings. So we were trying to clarify that in the definition. That way, anywhere else in the code, someone says, oh, you're forcing me to do something. No, our definition says. So that's the intent of this. So we have the HP core zone de Trinidad historic preservation, the area of Trinidad which has been identified for historic preservation. The area is subject to special design requirements and use restrictions in order to preserve its historic character. For landmark buildings, for buildings keeping landmark eligibility, and for buildings who could be eligible to start tax credits.
So we added, so you guys were, thank you for the the education we got at the last meeting. It was good. No, that was the first.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it explained so much.
Yeah, it clarified a lot for us.
We both were like, oh, that's why everyone is
upset.
Yes. I was like, I don't understand.
Right.
So thank you for that. But this really does hit at the core of what your concerns were, that there are no design standards, but there are if you choose to land on your lot.
So I already told, well.
Yeah, and so one thing, we probably do want to revisit this just because the way it's worded, in order to preserve its historic character for landmark buildings, we definitely want to keep that, but for buildings keeping landmark eligibility, we probably want to put for property owners wanting to keep, just so everyone knows it's property owner's choice. And like I said,
the building, it's the property.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, because the next statement says, and for buildings who can be eligible.
And that's also, yeah, so for property owners who are going to look for, to keep their eligibility for landmarking and eligibility for historic tax credits. Just so everyone's aware if they're going through the code. Okay, I do want to follow the HP stuff because I might be looking at landmarking, I might look at trying to get some historic tax credits, just making people aware of that. So we are probably going to have to reword that.
So I'm doing it as we speak. So the recommendation would be, we would add then is, if I heard correctly, would be, so the new line, so in order to preserve historic character that's existing, then we would add for landmark buildings, comma, for property owners, plural, sorry, who want to keep landmark eligibility. I don't think we need buildings in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for buildings who can be eligible for tax credits.
Mm-hmm.
No?
Well, because if it's just eligible for tax credits, you're saying you have to do it.
Okay.
So if you say, and for owners who how do you wanna
how
say,
about-
who wish to be eligible for historic tax credit?
Well, how
How
about
about
we-
let's just get rid of it, just go, keep landmark eligibility.
Well, actually, I would say, and for buildings who have received historic tax credits.
Yeah, that's fine too.
Could always put in quotation marks at the bottom as a note that this is an option, an owner option.
Well, these are definitions of the zone district,
Right.
so you don't wanna mess with it
It
too much.
should be defined for these areas. There's been a lot of problems, not, I don't wanna say
Yeah.
problems, but a lot of issues with this.
No,
I've heard.
This is really, I actually really appreciate this clarification, to be 100% honest with you, because I was very confused why some things were happening. I'll just leave it at that.
So there are other people.
And now I know. And I didn't, so, alright.
Yeah, then I got
Is
the,
there anything, sorry, are we all good with how this will now read?
Can we reread it?
The area of Trinidad which has been identified for historic preservation, period. The area is subject to special design requirements and use restrictions in order to preserve its historic character for landmark buildings, for property owners who want to keep landmark eligibility, and for buildings who have received historic tax credits. Okay.
so then I have the definitions, just because this was the main point of the exercise, but I'm happy we got to cleaning that up. I think that clears up a lot for me, for staff, and for hopefully, citizens. So we have HPMU, that's the Corazon de Trinidad Historic Preservation Mixed Use. Area of Trinidad, which provides lands with a mixture of uses related to retail businesses. Mixed use can include, but is not limited to, mixed use buildings with retail or office uses on the lower floors and residential above, or uses with mixed commercial and residential. Again, this isn't like defined, this is the definition, but it's not like the table that's below there. Or the tables we have that say this is permitted use. That's all still staying the same. This is just a definition in general. If someone looks at my building's HPMU, this kind of summarizes my building. We have RD, Corazon de Trinidad Historic Preservation Residential. The area of Trinidad which is in the Corazon de Trinidad Historic Preservation as primary use is residential housing. The land has smaller lot sizes and setback requirements similar to high density residential. Commercial uses are permitted in the zoning as well.
I have just one question. You know how we talked about, the Corazon Historic Preservation District does not always match our HP district? Should we have that wording in there? Because it doesn't, there's areas where you have the HP zoning, but it's not in that district.
So you're talking about the national district?
Mm-hmm.
So no, and here's why.
Okay,
The national district isn't zoning.
right, I know that. That's why I wonder if that confuses people.
Well, it's
So why-
just, it's not, so to be clear, these are zoning definitions, and the national district is a completely separate thing.
Right.
So that's why I understand what you're saying, but because you gotta think about how this fits into the whole code section that this lives in.
That's what I'm trying to
This
understand.
is describing the zone districts, right, in your code. And so by putting in that, it's not a zoning term, right? The national district is not, I think it would actually create further confusion, because then people are gonna say, where's the national district zone
Well,
defined?
that's what I'm saying. They put it here. That's why I said that's gonna be confusing, because it's in that definition.
It's in,
Yeah, it's on A and B.
there. What do you,
Well, this is what I printed. That's right here. Right here where it says Corazon de Trinidad.
yes, but that's the zone, that's the name of the zone on the.
It's not just HP mixed use. They actually have the whole thing.
Yes, that's the name of the
Okay.
zone. Yeah.
Well, let's double check that, because the
It is.
zoning discussion we had earlier.
Oh, what it is.
It is, okay.
I know, it drives me nuts,
Yeah,
because
it
it
is
doesn't mean,
confusing.
and I can't say that,
Yeah, it is that.
That's what they
staff has had conversations about erasing it, because it does create confusion for people. They're like, oh yeah, I'm part of the district.
But right now, you have to leave it.
Yeah.
If we're cleaning it up, isn't this the time to clean it up?
Ugh.
We'd have to go,
Well, we'd have to amend the zoning map
we'd
too.
have to amend the zoning map, and then we'd have to scrub the entire land use code everywhere it has it,
Oh, geez.
which is,
I would suggest, I understand the issue, but I would just leave it. Not because I'm being lazy here, but.
No, that's a lot of work.
No,
That's not
it's more of,
So how do you educate the public that the two different districts are total, they don't match?
let me, sir, is there any portion of any of either of those districts that is in the national district? I think there
A
is.
lot of this is in the
Majority
national
is, yeah.
district, but some of it's not. And the
There's
only
pieces
off the top of
Well-
my head is like east on Main Street. I can't think of anything.
Yeah, so.
No, I'm sorry, west on Main.
Okay, so that being said, I would leave it as it states because, I'll give sorry to use the example of Salida, but I am. Salida had a very similar situation where the historic preservation district was larger than the national district that's there, and that's pretty typical. And what it does though is the surrounding properties were built at a similar time, but they don't have they weren't built during the period of significance. But that zoning permits, basically, if you think about it, the zoning, if you're a neighboring property to a historic property, it keeps the mass and scale similar to the historic properties.
Yeah, I understand. Just the names get confusing.
Yeah, but
I think there's an opportunity, I know the Historic Preservation Commission is gonna look at getting a new district, or an updated survey, to better define their boundary.
Oh, that'd be
And at
great.
that point, we might wanna look at, okay, now is probably the time, we know these ones are, either the ones that aren't scribbling it out, or just entirely saying, we know this is what it is, and we want to separate the zoning from it. So I know that's in the works, but
Okay.
that is down the line.
the other thing that most historic districts do to get your historic, and this is getting way off base, but I'm going to say it anyways. That a lot of, once you do an update, you can actually create a historic preservation overlay. And then that's the other way to handle this, in which you actually say that the overlay, then the district boundary actually becomes a zone district. So then it's an overlay district, so any of the properties, even if they're non-contributing, then you add in that, special considerations to protect the district's character are considered. And you can add, and we could talk about whether or not you wanna do that or not. But that's a bigger wire, but that's how you take your district boundary and actually incorporate it in the zoning code, is by doing an overlay.
Gotcha.
Can we bring up the code that you had on the
Yes.
screen a minute ago, please? Down here at the bottom, you got a couple of extra similars in there, and I think that's really misleading, because what is similar to high density? What is similar to anything? Because this table and that table are similar because they're both made of wood, but really they're not. They're not similar at all. So I think that word doesn't even belong anywhere near there. And it's like twice
Where
in a
are you?
row, right there. It says the land has similar lot size and setback represents similar to the high density residential, commercial. Similar doesn't work. Similar is so vague.
Where is it? Oh, there.
That should be worded completely different.
Well, you could just actually delete similar.
Exactly. It shouldn't be in there because that leads vagueness.
Do we
It
wanna-
should say
so
high
I'm gonna-
density code required.
I'm gonna delete it real quick, and then we can reread it without the words in there. So, the land has size and setback requirements to, like.
Like, yes, or the same as. It's just, I think that similar allows it to be vague. We don't want it to be vague. We want them to know that this is where the code is. Sorry about that.
No?
That's good.
That's why we're doing this.
Yeah, perfect catch.
Is that okay? Is everyone okay with that? Alright.
Better.
Sorry, jumping ahead, we talked about the eve encroachment, 18-inch eve encroachment, but adding that to your use table so it's there for the public to see. And are we okay with the 18 inches in the architectural detail? I'll be honest with you, I had a code that didn't have this and I had a code that didn't. The code that didn't have it in Crescent View was actually the most strict design code, and it leads to bad architecture, especially in a place that snows 300 some inches a year. You want eaves.
Yeah, you want an overhang.
So, anyhow, okay. So with that, we would appreciate. Is there any other comments on this, or are you guys all okay with where we went with all this today? So the only thing that I would say is that you don't need to put this in your motion, but we will move re-subdivision up to the section above on the subdivision code to the appropriate section. But other than that, we would entertain a motion to forward this to be an ordinance in front of City Council with the suggestions, the amendments on today's discussion.
You have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
To approve the amendments as discussed.
Yes.
I'll second
Motion made and second, roll call?
Moderano,
Yes.
Armijo,
Yes.
Spain,
Yes, ma'am.
Coker,
Yes.
Rolo,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Leone.
Yes.
Good job, guys.
Okay. Reports. Anything from staff?
Next meeting, is June 11th. We are going to have the training with, I forgot the gentleman's name. I will send out a reminder to you guys, but we're gonna start that training at 3, and this is with DOLA. This is the training you guys have been requesting. We're gonna start it at 3, if that's okay with everyone, then we'll have a regular meeting at 5.
When is it?
June 11th, I believe. That's the second Tuesday.
I may be in Chicago at graduation on that, so I may.
Congratulations.
And where would that be?
What's that?
Where would it be?
Here.
Here.
June 11th, at 3, it's gonna start the training. It takes about 2 hours. That'll give us a chance to our regular meeting afterwards.
Anything else from staff?
That's all I have.
Jeremy, I don't have a chair, but last time we asked about the Frontier and Circle K, you said you were gonna give us some info maybe?
Yes.
Find out anything on that?
I found out, I'm trying to think. I don't know if I can say anything about it,
Is it gonna be an active application? Potential application?
there's potential for you.
So,
But,
I think,
yeah, so I can say that there's work being done, they hit a huge snag with some of their permitting process. The landowner did. So we keep pushing them to knock down the building now. And we've stayed on them about the fence as much as we can. So they've done a pretty good job about the fence, so, but yeah, we do keep pushing them to knock down the building as fast as they can. But they have hit a snag with some of their development, no permitting, so.
The other thing that I would want to bring up is, I went to the 600 Mile this year. And they had a good crowd. And there was a lot of trash that was all over. And the next day, which was Sunday, this town was clean. I think somebody should make to the city people that did that job. They did an excellent job. There wasn't anything anywhere. There was cans all over by the side of the street, there was cigarette butts, there was paper. They were gone Sunday morning when I went to church. They were gone.
I'll let Rich know, he'll love to hear that, because he puts pride in that, and speaking of, we have June 7th and 8th, I believe.
I don't know what time they got started, but.
Yeah, June 7th and 8th, we're gonna have the.
9 o'clock mass, it's as clean as a whistle now.
Yeah, June 7th, 8th is Santa Fe Trail Days, so the city's putting it on. City's the main people, so you see the city staff working it. But I will tell Rich, he'll appreciate that, because I think he starts at 5:30 on the cleanup on Sundays, so that's commendable.
Other than that, I don't have anything. Commissioners?
The Boulevard Edition has now trail names, and they've paved, or they haven't paved, they've gravelled the path that goes along by the river, and you can go out there and see fly fishermen taking classes from, I think they're from the sporting goods store, and they're out there fishing in a newly designed, it's beautiful. So anyway, if you get a chance, go off the strip.
Anybody else? Mr. Spade?
I know that I brought this up before, but I want to bring it up again. The Opera House is falling down. I don't want to upset anybody. I know that big names own it. But we're talking about historical preservation, and look at what we have on our main street. I've watched old people have to go out, elderly people, I'm sorry, I apologize for that. But they had to go out away from our public sidewalk that I spoke about being closed into the street and in traffic just to run this nonsense. Please do something about this. Our citizens deserve better than this.
I brought that up to city manager.
Yeah.
Over 2 months ago.
I can't say that the owner they've been hit with ADO a little bit, but they are working on it.
They ought to at least be able to take that overhang off of that building. That's not original and open back up our sidewalk.
The main focus right now is to at least open up the sidewalk.
Exactly.
And then they can finish developing the building as they see fit. But yeah, and I do know that is in the works with city staff, some other boards of.
Who's responsible for that right now? The landowner, the people that own that, or is the city?
What's that?
If somebody would get ran over in the street because they're in the street.
Yeah, it's the city.
Yeah, we're gonna get sued. Underneath that overhang on our sidewalk, we could be sued. If that overhang fell down on the people that are stepping over that sign, the city would get sued. That's our property. Why did they ever even get to put overhang over it?
So I do know that they are working, they've been working.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, I think they've been working with some other boards and commissions and how they get it done, so.
I appreciate it.
There is some movement.
I'm gonna have to continue to bring it up until it helps. That's my job.
Anything else?
I think it's a motel for raccoons, ain't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, those big ones too.
She's going in all the time.
What about the trolley stop? Have the trolley stop.
Anything else? Have a motion adjourned.
Yeah.
Motion adjourned. Done.